All right, everybody, we got two Biftas. We got two Biftas. We got two B52 amps here. One of them being a combo. This is an AT112. And then we also have the B52 ST100A. Are these the poor man Mesa amps? Or what are they? Let's find out. Okay, so as my usual setup, we're going to go through this amp selector and we're going to be able to switch between these two using the same cabinet. So there won't be any changes other than the fact that we're switching amps. So the mics will be the same, the speakers will be the same, and we'll get a nice direct comparison of both of these amps. So what we're going to do is going to go check out the cleans, and then we're going to go check out the overdrives. Now, mind you, this only has two channels. So, well, both of them only have two channels, but I'll explain that in a minute. We got the clean and then we got an overdrive. So it's just pretty quick and simple. One thing that this doesn't have is a master volume. It's a volume per each channel. So we can't really crank the pre-tubes on this and use a master volume to bring it back down. There is a master, but it's for low res, which is our resonance, and reverb. We're not going to go through the reverbs on these guys. Don't expect much from them anyways. But these guys can be found for around like $200 to $300, maybe sometimes even $150 for each one of them. So is it a good amp for you to, if you're super on the budget, can it get you by? We're going to find that out too. The thing about the ST100A is there is a master volume, but there is no resonance control for the power amps here. So all the EQ you got is what's on that channel. So this is two channels, but the overdrive channel has two channels. One of them being able to control the contour. Whenever you go to the other gain channel, the contour isn't in play at all, but the EQ, standard EQ is. So let's go ahead and check this stuff out. For the clean, we are on the AT112. Let's make sure of that. Yes, we are. All right, so the EQs are going to all be at noon, so we'll test it that way on both sides. So this is what it sounds like on the clean. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and check out the ST100's clean. Okay, I do want to state the difference, another difference between these two is that this is a 60 watt and this one is actually 100 watts. So there may be a little difference in that, not much. I could see maybe this guy probably having a little more resonance, but to tell you the truth, as I've been playing these, that is not the case. All right, so the clean on the ST100A definitely seems a little brighter. Maybe a little more mid for it, I would say. So that's the ST100. Here's the AT112. As of right now, I like the AT112 a little better because it's a lot more thicker. And maybe it's because this has a resonance knob to it. And it is halfway on this guy. All right, so let's actually bring it back and see if we can match this. It still is a lot more thicker. So this is the ST. Let's go back here and like really cut it off. Still a lot thicker. So let's go back to the ST and see if we can make it a little thicker on that side, because I like the way the AT is sounding. So let's bring up some of the bass. Let's go to about 3 o'clock. Let's bring back some the middle, because I know this is a little more mid forward. And let's see where that's at. Okay, that sounds better. This one's a little chimier. I'm still liking this one more. So we're going to bring up the treble on that. Maybe even a little more. There we go. I like that. Man, this one still has a lot more thump to it. Now we are going through the cab and not the actual cab of the amp. But still, I didn't want any differences in between the speakers. I just wanted to go through the same speakers and switch between them. So let's go back to this. So a little more thicker. I would like, because I'm used to hearing this now, I want more thickness out of this. This one seems a little more fun to play with, maybe even have a little more room for EQing. So I am liking this one a little more. Let's go back. Though, this might have too much bass. Now, the ST where it's sitting at right now after the EQ change. That might work really well. But just because, you know, we like to hear a little more bass when we're playing to get inspired, maybe that's why I'm digging this one a little bit more. So let's see if we can cut the bass back on the AT. Let's cut that back to around 9 o'clock. Okay, back to the ST. That's pretty close. This one still sounds a little bassy. Let's cut the mids. ST. Okay, now the ST sounds like it has a little more sparkle to it. I don't know if I just confused myself on that, but I'm feeling like there's a little more sparkle to this one now. But anyways, this is the kind of setting I would like for the ST. That sounds pretty good to me. And for the B52, let's actually play with the EQ on this one, okay? Let's bring some treble into it. That's nice and sparkly. I dig that. Let's bring the resonance back into this. I think I like the AT's EQ clean channel on this a little more, just because it's more versatile. So let's bring some mids into it. Let's go 2 o'clock at that. There we go. I think I like the AT112 better than the ST100A. So let's go ahead and go over to the overdrives and play with that. Now I do have a Soul Food overdrive pedal, so we can boost that as well and see what the capabilities of that are. All right, so let's go ahead and go over to the Crunch channel, or overdrive channel I should say, on that. And we're gonna switch over to this one. And, all right, so since we have 2 gain structures on this, we're actually gonna do gain 1, and then after a little bit, we'll do gain 2 because it has control with the contour. So that makes a huge difference in the way the amp sounds. So let's see what this one sounds like. That's an awesome like crunch tone. That sounds great. I mean, for a cheap amp too. I don't know if I'd call it the poor man's Mesa. It doesn't really have that really fizzy top end that I'm used to with the Mesa, but it's a lot more of a like a Marshall kind of sound than it is a Mesa to me. Let's go ahead and play with the contour a little bit on this guy. Okay, now let's bring it back to a really like scoop mid sound. That's a really fun sounding amp, you know, for that price point, it is killer. For somebody who's just getting into tubes and stuff, I think this is a great way to go. The voicing on this guy I know is definitely a lot different than the ST100, and we'll get there. But let's play with this one a little bit more. So with the contour down like that, I want some more treble and probably some more mids because I'm like counteracting what the contour is doing. But let's just see what this sounds like. Let's give it some more gain. Okay, now I'm starting to see why it's a little bit Mesa sounding. Because that, as I put more gain in there and brought the contour back, I can see that. That sounds pretty cool. So let's bring back the mids on that. Bring in some bass. How about that? All right, now let's bring back the contour. Yeah, I like the contour in the middle a lot better than having it back there. So let's bring that up a little bit more, see what that sounds like. A lot more mid forward. That's pretty cool. All right, let's go ahead and put this back at noon. And let's go ahead and go over to the ST100 and see what that sounds like. All right, so now we're in the ST100. Whoa, totally different. Okay, now it's hard to decide what would shine a little better. Coming from an amp that sounds super scooped, and even after bringing the contour back up, this one sounds way forward. It feels like it's the low mids is kind of a lot higher on the ST. And that's still a really good sound. I kind of like the AT112 a little better. I don't know how it sounds in the actual DAW. It should be the same, but let's play with that. I want to cut back some of the mids on that. Okay, let's go back to the AT112. Whoa. It's a totally different voicing. And right now we're on gain 1. So gain 1 side is very much, there's no contour on it. So it's straight up just the EQ. Let's bring in some highs in that. All right. Now, I like that. That sounds good. We need to bring in some more gain for sure. All right, let's go 2 o'clock. There we go. I like that. It's a very controlled gain. So let's go back to AT. Now the AT sounds like it's like has a blanket over it. You know, maybe it's the wrong speaker to use for this amp. It definitely has great potential, but still, I keep going back and forth each time we mess with this stuff. That's like a cool sound for the bedroom, but if you're pumping that loud, I don't know if it would pass. See, this one's a lot more present. We're gonna bring in some mids there. Sounds like the AT is a little more crunchier. Bring in the gain on that. Man, this is such a totally different voicing. This sounds like more like an 80s metal sound, you know, with it just way scooped the way it is. Let's go back here. All right, let's see. Okay, between these two, what do I want more? Out of this amp, I want it to be a little more mid-forward. So let's bring up the contour. So there's the lacking part of this amp. It doesn't have that mid-forward push to it. It's just so, just has a really blanket sound to it and stuff. So, and I got the contour, the treble, and the middle pretty high up. I'll bring back the low resonance as well. All right, let's go to the ST. Okay, so the ST definitely sounds like the poor man's Mesa. I'm hearing that really fizzy top and then a low bottom. But the AT has a lot more lows, so it's way better with that than it is than the ST has. So let's see if we can bring back in some of the lows on this. I'm gonna bring it all the way up. I like that. That sounds good. That is really Mesa-like. Back to the AT. You know, it sounds like the AT is like has that solid state kind of like it just doesn't ever get as present as a tube amp. It is a tube amp, but it's a funny kind of voicing to that one. Still a great amp, especially for the price of it. Let's go back to the ST and let's play with this EQ settings here. I feel like even in this one, there's something that I'm missing in that. So, okay, we're gonna go to gain 2 and we're gonna start playing with the contour on that and see if we can catch what I'm wanting out of it. So let's go to gain 2. The contour is in the middle. Let's see what it sounds like right there. Okay, it sounds about the same. That's because I was on the AT112. Okay, I like how that sounds. Let's bring in some more treble. Let's bring back some of the mids. That's too much. I think there's too much bass. Now, what would be good on this is an overdrive, but we'll get to that soon. Now let's compare the gain 2 to gain 1. Now, we did actually put more gain on this. Let's go ahead and add the gain to that. Okay, with the contour about middle, they both sound about the same there. So let's go ahead and play with the contour. So we're on gain 2. Well, let's see what this does. All the way down. Okay, that's super scooped. Way scooped. Back in the middle. That sounds great. All the way up. Sounds pretty good. I dig that. All right, so let's actually go back to the AT and just kind of get a reference of that again. Huh. You know, going between these two is definitely messing me up trying to figure out where my middle ground is with this stuff. Now it sounds like this has a little too much bass. Cut that back a little bit more. All right, so now let's actually do an overdrive. Let's go through this and see what that sounds like. I got a Soul Food overdrive. We're going to go each of these channels, but I'm going to pull the gain back to the middle, so we can get a good middle ground between the pedal and the amps. Back there, we're going to do both gains on this guy. I'll bring the gain back there. All right, so we're going to engage it on the gain 1 first. So this is what it sounds like without, and this is with. That sounds pretty good. That's without. This is with. That's that tight chug, man. That's what I'm talking. That sounds good. All right, let's go over to gain 2. See what that sounds like. That's with. This is without. Just really tubby. Contours all the way up. Without. With. Okay, I'm starting to really believe this is the poor man's Mesa. Now, it doesn't have as much lows as this guy does, but I think the lows on this is good enough, but a Mesa's better, of course. Just like everyone said, poor man's Mesa. I am in total agreement that this one in particular is. Now, I used to have the AT100, which was the head version of this, the 100 watt. And that thing was awesome. I absolutely love that thing. For the power amp in it as well, man, that thing was, I would take modelers and stick it through there. That would be the amp to do that kind of a thing. If you want an awesome power amp and you just want it for cheap, and if you can find an AT100, I definitely recommend it. And there's extra channels on that one. And I don't remember it being as scooped as this one is. I think you have more EQ capabilities on that one. So if you can find an AT100, definitely get it so you can have it as a power amp, a backup amp. And now the reliability portion of this, I don't know that much about because I haven't really had to gig with one or anything like that, but I've turned these up really loud, and man, they can get super loud, and the power amp is super clean. And I feel the same way about this one, you know. I think they're really viable for like a good tool to have as a backup, especially if you have a quad cortex or you have an Axe FX and you don't really want to put the money into something like that. I think it's a good option. So let's go over to this guy, and we're gonna check it out with the pedal without. It's pretty gainy as it is. So with it. Okay, that brought back a little bit of life in it for me. So, I mean, the middle's all the way up, treble's all the way, contour's all the way up. So, let's see if we can bring a little more low into it, just for fun, with the pedal on. Man, I feel like this amp can take the pedal a lot better than the ST. Let's go back to the ST. It's on gain 2 still, so. This one sounds like it has a little more gain on tap. Let's go ahead and push the gain on both of these channels and just see where we sit now. Okay, that's heavy. Okay, so between these two amps, I feel like this amp takes the pedal a lot better. And this guy, it seems like, it's hard to say. Because that sounds really good too. It definitely has that Mesa crunch to it. AT. You know, it just has that like old school death metal 90s sound to it. Let's mess with the contour. It sounds good, but I don't think it'll come through as good in a mix or live with this one. I think this would be your better choice if you want to be heard and you actually want to, you know, play this live. You know, it's probably great for other things other than metal. Everything else it can do, it's really awesome sounding. With this guy, I think this will be your choice if you wanted to go live and play with it. So. Let's go over to gain 1, see what that sounds like. Gain 2. The settings that it's at right now, this is where I like it. Even if I go over to gain 1, which doesn't have the contour involved, still want a little something more from it. Back to the AT. That is so freaking scooped, man. That is so 90s death metal. So there you go. That's my conclusion of this. If you want 90s death metal and want to use it for a metal amp, get the AT112. Now the AT100, I think you can get a little more out of and get closer or even better than the ST. I wish I did have the AT100 to compare that. But if you want just kind of a metal amp, the Stealth series, that's probably the way you want to go. And if you want loud and be very mid-forward, this is probably a little bit more modern than the old death metal 90s scoop sound. All right, hope you guys got something out of this. D&D.